From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Starting with a little announcement. Today, Thursday, the 5th? Yeah, Thursday the 5th of August. This is our last show for a week or so, a week and a couple of days. Going to take a little August break here, even though I haven't finalized all my legislation. So just want to let you know, I'll be back. I don't have a calendar in front of me. It's all of next week, and then Monday or Tuesday, I'll be back at some point the following week. Okay? I hope that's good enough for you. So check in with me on Facebook. I'll keep in touch. I'll pop in. Although I do want to take a little bit of a break, a mental break. But maybe I'll post some old archive episodes. And speaking of archive episodes, I encourage you during this break to just hop on over to the website, charlespurcell.com, and every episode back to the very beginning. This is episode 351 today, if I'm not mistaken. So they're all there, all 351 episodes. So go ahead and take this opportunity to go back and listen to some of the archives. And as always, you can subscribe at your favorite platform. Reminder, when you do that, in the little search window there, you want to enter Charles Purcell. If you enter the log, nothing will happen. We put all of the shows under the one name, and that's my name, Charles Purcell. So there's that. I hope you're having a good summer, and I hope you're finding time to take a little break. It's an odd break. It is the Wisconsin State Fair. So my alter ego is going to control my life for a while. In my other life, I'm a musician. And I have a gig every day at the fair, doing a couple shows every day. So I'll be busy, but I won't be in my normal routine. So I'm not sure how it's going to feel. I do this every year. It's kind of grueling to do 2 shows a day for 11 days in a row. But when it's all said and done, I always feel really great. I feel like I've been through boot camp. It's a real kind of a workout. So I'm looking forward to that. And then my goal is, at the end of those 11 days, when I'm feeling kind of fit and I've probably I always lose at least a couple of pounds, maybe 5 or 10 every state fair. So I've lost a little weight. I'm feeling kind of fit. Then I'm going to try really hard to keep that momentum going on through the fall. Now, of course, the state fair was canceled last year, and there was even some question this year. As the days and months went by, we were all kind of checking the news. Well, what's going to be on or off for this year? Well, they decided to have the fair. And of course, that decision was made months ago, before we had any idea about this new surge of COVID. And I don't feel great about that part of the story. Of course, I'm vaccinated. You and I have talked about it at length, about COVID around here. There are such things as breakthrough cases and even breakthrough deaths. Now, the odds are very low. And I'm going to honor my contract, and I'm going to go do my job. And I'm going to mask up, except for when I'm singing. And I'm going to get in and get out with as little contact with people as possible. But, yeah, I'm not real happy about that side of the story. And then when it's over, I think I'm just going to hunker down again. I don't want to be any part of this new spread. I don't want to catch it. I don't want to pass it on. I definitely don't want to get sick. Again, the odds are so low that that's the least of my worries. But I just, as I've said many times, I just don't want to be part of this. I don't want to be part of the spread. And what I've been saying for quite a while now is definitely being confirmed by people who know a lot better than I do. Dr. Fauci himself said recently, I'm not sure where he said this, I guess it was an interview. Yeah, an interview with McClatchy on Wednesday of this week, that he's concerned about the next variant. Reading from Axios right now. As the virus continues to spread due to insufficient vaccination rates, it is being given ample time to mutate into a more dangerous new variant in the fall and winter, Fauci said. Quoting now, "Quite frankly, we're very lucky that the vaccines that we have now do very well against the variants, particularly against severe illness," Fauci said, emphasizing that this might not be the case with a new variant. If another one comes along that has an equally high capability of transmitting, but also is much more severe, then we could really be in trouble, he said. People who are not getting vaccinated mistakenly think it's only about them, but it isn't. It's about everybody else also. Now here's the real scary part. Other variants are already cropping up. On Tuesday, South Korea announced that it had detected 2 cases of the Delta Plus variant. One in a man who had recently returned from the U.S., Reuters reports. Some experts believe the Delta Plus variant could be more contagious than the Delta variant. The Lambda variant, which originated from Peru last year, has already been detected in the U.S. Recent studies indicated that Lambda could be more resistant to the current COVID-19 vaccines, according to Reuters. This is what's been speculated for a while. It's what I've been talking about for a while. This is not good news, you guys. We've had a recent spike in vaccinations from people getting scared shitless about this thing, and that's good. Let's only hope that it continues. But by everything I see, and God, I hope I'm wrong, there's a good 25 to 30% of Americans who just are refusing. They're just not going to do it. Couple that with the fact that we're not doing enough. Rich nations are not doing enough to get the vaccine to poor nations to facilitate that. We still have this ridiculous monopoly on the rights to the vaccine with just a couple of big pharmaceutical companies. It's not free and clear for everybody to use. So there's still that element of control. I mean, this is crazy. So yeah, my plan, I'm just going right back into 2020 mode. I'm going to go honor my contract. I'm going to mask up. I'm going to try to keep my distance. And then I get my ass back in my apartment in the middle of August, and I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to lay really, really low. I mean, this is nuts. We seem to have zero progress on COVID. We've hit a wall, and I don't see how this gets better. And we're just sitting around waiting for the next variants to mutate. And everybody who refuses to get vaccinated, or everybody who can't get vaccinated because they're poor, they live in poor countries, or whatever the reason, this is going to allow further and further mutations. And we're just screwed. Now, I didn't start the episode today with the intention of just shouting gloom and doom, but help me out here. What's the good news to report? I'm looking out my window right now. I've told you many times how I enjoy my view of the skyline of Milwaukee, my beloved city. And I can't even see it clearly because of the smoke from fires in Canada and in the West. Jetstream is bringing smoke from across the continent, and I can't even see my cityscape. They're behind a film, and I can smell it. This is crazy. Because just like COVID, we're doing nothing or less than nothing about the climate crisis. We're not doing nothing. We're doing less than nothing. We're going in the exact opposite direction. The big infrastructure bills they're talking about in Washington, which we still don't even know if they're going to happen. They're touted as this great spending spree for infrastructure, the greatest in American history. And there's virtually nothing in there about climate change. So help me out. Tell me what's the silver lining here? Where's the reason for hope? Well, let's see. I gotta find something. Lord mercy. Okay, here's the hopeful part. It's not a mystery. We know what to do. We know what to do about COVID. We know what to do about climate crisis. There are scientists, there are experts, there are people who know how to solve these problems. So I guess that's the good news. We just need to figure a way to set them loose on these problems. Because right now, the people who know how to solve the problems, their hands are tied. Because the people with the money, the people with the power, the CEOs, the money class, the owner class, and the politicians they control, they're the ones who have to unlock the gate. They're the ones who have to unshackle the chains. Because their insistence on this forever marriage to corporate capitalism, to profit, these are the locks, these are the gates that prevent people with the know-how to get the job done. They're ready and waiting to get the job done. Climate crisis is not a mystery. We know what to do. COVID is not a mystery. We know what to do. So let's just pin our hopes on that fact. We have the know-how. That's not the problem. Letting the people with the know-how out of their metaphorical dungeons, their prisons of profit and capitalism, if we can do something about those bars, if we can somehow break down those barriers, we're golden. We know what to do. So I guess we'll just have to keep fighting that fight. Let me tell you about a guy known as River Dave. I saw the greatest story on the AP yesterday. I'm going to read a little bit to you. Maybe I'll read the whole thing to you. Let's see, how long is it? You know what? It's a short article. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to read you a story. Canterbury, New Hampshire. The AP. For almost 3 decades, 81-year-old David Lidstone has lived in the woods of New Hampshire along the Merrimack River, in a small cabin adorned with solar panels. He has grown his own food, cut his own firewood, and tended to his cat and chickens. But his off-the-grid existence appears to be at risk. River Dave, as he's known by boaters and kayakers, is behind bars after being accused of squatting for 27 years on private property in Canterbury. As the owner of the land seeks to tear down the cabin, Lidstone has been jailed since July 15th on a civil contempt sanction. You came with your guns. You arrested me, brought me in here. You've got all my possessions. You keep 'em, he told a judge at a hearing Wednesday. I'll sit here with your uniform on until I rot, sir. Jody Gedeon, an avid kayaker who befriended Lidstone about 20 years ago, is working with other supporters to help him, including organizing a petition drive and collecting money to cover property taxes. He's just a really, really big, caring guy and just chooses to live off the grid, she said. It really is about humanity. It really is about compassion, empathy. He's not hurting anybody. Merrimack County Superior Court Judge Andrew Schulman agreed that Lidstone isn't hurting anyone, but said the law is clearly on the landowner's side. You're doing your own thing in the live free or die state, so there's a lot of sympathy to you for that, he said. But there's a lot of weight on the other side of the balance sheet, and not just about what the landowner wants to do with the land, but the weight I feel to uphold the judgment of the court and the rule of law. Gedeon and other supporters came out to a town select board meeting on Monday. Board members said the town currently has no standing in the property dispute. But even if there were a way to allow Lidstone to stay, it would be an uphill battle. His home is in violation of local and state zoning and environmental regulations, and there's no access to a road. You guys are in a quandary, so are we, Selectman Robert Steenson said. The woodlot Lindstone calls home is just a few miles away from Interstate 93, but it's hidden by the trees. It's on 73 acres that's been used for timber harvests. The property has been owned by the same family since 1963. There are no plans at this time to develop it. Lindstone has claimed that years ago the owner gave his word, but nothing in writing allowing him to live there. But in the eyes of the current owner, he's a squatter and needs to go. Property owner Leonard Giles, 86, of South Burlington, Vermont, didn't even know Lindstone was there until the town administrator found out in 2015 and told him, expressing concern, with regard to the solid and septic waste disposal and the potential zoning violations created by the structure, according to Giles' complaint in 2016. The judge suggested Wednesday that Giles and town officials work with a mediator, but Giles' lawyer said the logistics would be too daunting. We've got to recognize the fact that this was a managed woodlot with income which is supposed to support my elderly client in his retirement. At some point, how far is he supposed to go in order to turn his woodlot into a habitable lot for somebody else who's there trespassing? Said attorney Lisa Snow Wade. He just wants his land back. Lindstone, who doesn't have an attorney, insisted his cabin is a hunting and fishing camp, not a home. Why do you need a road to it? Do you think I'm an idiot? You're going to put a septic tank in for a hunting camp, he said. He also argued that Giles doesn't own the property but is being pressured by the town. He's a heck of a nice old man. I've talked with him a couple of times. This is not his fault. This is not my fault, he said. It's lying, cheating, corrupt judges like you that are stepping on little people like me. But I'm telling you, sir, you step on me, I'm going to bite your ankle. Lindstone, a bearded, small-framed, sprightly man, has resisted efforts to leave since a judge issued an order for him to vacate in 2017. Following that, both sides had attempted to reach some sort of agreement for him, but were unsuccessful, according to court documents. Currently, Lindstone can be released if one of three things happen. He agrees to leave, the cabin is demolished by Giles, or 30 days have passed since he was jailed. Another hearing will be held next week. He hasn't had any other contact with law enforcement, unlike the case of a man in Maine called the North Pond Hermit, who also lived in the woods for nearly 3 decades and pleaded guilty in 2013 to multiple burglary and theft charges. Over the years, Lindstone, a U.S. Air Force veteran and a father of 4 who has made money as a woodsman, has been known to invite kayakers and boaters into his home, sharing stories about his life in the wild. The wooden, 2-level A-frame cabin was profiled by a local television show in 2018. There is a small, cluttered kitchen with pots hanging from the ceiling, some appliances, and curtains on the windows. His porch has a footstool with a base made of stacked beer cans. He converted a wood stove into a beehive. He's attached lights, a mirror, and a pulley for a clothesline to logs supporting the cabin. There are piles of firewood. Nearby is a gravel path leading to vegetable garden plots outlined by logs and some berry bushes. Lindstone gets his water from a stream. Lindstone's decision to live in the woods is exactly the lifestyle he wants, said his brother Vincent Lindstone, 77, of Lafayette, Georgia. What they're doing to him isn't right for anybody. Whether he's my brother or anybody's brother, he said. He's 81 years old. Leave him alone. Vincent Lindstone said he lost touch with his brother through the years, but described how the two of them and a cousin enjoyed spending time outdoors. They grew up in Wilton, Maine. We lived in the woods, he said. We camped, fishing, hunting. The 3 of us did everything together for a lot of years. It's unclear where Lindstone would go. Vincent Lindstone said he doesn't have the resources to help him. The Associated Press reached 2 of his 3 sons, who said they haven't been in touch with their father recently. His daughter didn't respond to a message seeking comment. Gedeon said the matter hasn't been discussed by her group yet. We want to see him be able to live out his remaining years where he is, she said. Associated Press writer Holly Raymer contributed to this report. There's the AP story. So what do you think? I feel sorry for the judge. I feel sorry for anybody who has to decide this. I mean, there really are compelling arguments on both sides here. And the immediate initial sort of gut reaction, I think, from everybody, I guess, I mean, it's mine. He's been living there for decades. He's happy. It's how he wants to live. He's not hurting anybody. Leave him alone. Let him be. He's 81 years old, like his brother said. On the other hand, I mean, I guess you have to have some consideration for sanitation and basic safety ordinances, and I don't know. What do you think? How would you handle this one? Something that we don't often consider is the flexibility, the leeway that judges have within the law, and that any lawmaker has. They can always find ways to carve out exceptions, to make allowances, to consider extenuating circumstances. Laws, despite what a lot of people might think, are not carved in stone. I mean, we've been seeing that more and more recently. It's been sort of on my mind that as the right wing of this country has gone off the cliff, that, of course, has caused more partisanship. Now, my big fight with a lot of analysts, they don't acknowledge the fact that one side of the equation has gone quite literally mad, and that is why there's increased partisanship. If you go back to Kennedy and Eisenhower in those days, the right wing of this country was, at least the mainstream right wing, was damned reasonable. If you put them on a grid and compare them to today's Democrats, the conservatives of that time would be very comfortable with centrist Democrats of today, even lean left a little bit. So what I'm getting at here, not to get off on that tangent, the fact that there's so much partisanship, that the right wing has gone so nuts, so much of what we do winds up in the courts and winds up in the hands of lawyers. Just like this case of River Dave, they call him, David Lidstone. So what I've noticed over the years is it almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter what the law is or the ordinance is. Once it gets into the courts, once it gets into the hands of lawmakers and lawyers, almost anything can happen. And on a grander level, we've seen this especially with, say for example, gun rights or gun safety legislation, or the unfortunate phrase gun control, how the Second Amendment has just been completely annihilated through the most outrageous interpretations of the far right. Another big example is Citizens United, and that money is speech, and that corporations are people. Almost once you get laws tumbling around in this topsy-turvy process, anything can come out. This is a lesson I've learned, for good or for ill, and I'm afraid mostly for ill in the examples I've mentioned. Law doesn't mean as much as I used to think it did. It's highly malleable. We live in a world controlled by tinkerers, lawmakers, and their staffs, and their lawyers can make anything, quote unquote, legal. It's really just 100% about power. Now, that's not a happy confession to make. We were taught in our middle school civics class that we were a nation of laws, not of men, the way they taught us. But just look at the facts. We can't even have an election. We can't even have a democratic election anymore. Everything's got to go to the courts. Everything's got to be tossed into this weird jumble of legalese and debate. and power grabs, and damn near anything can come out as a result. I'm not happy to report this, but it's the way I see it. So take that same concept and apply it to the case here of River Dave in New Hampshire. It's really just all about what the people decide when they get their heads together in these meetings and in these courtrooms or offices of some arbiter. They can come out, they can make the law fit with whatever they want. They can make allowances for this guy. They could help him out. So I guess that's where I land. It's really kind of laughable now to just stand up and say, well, the law demands this or the law demands that. We're not there anymore. It's been a long time since we've been there. Yeah, your cause might be righteous. And I'm sure, I can guarantee you I've probably used similar arguments. I've probably said something like that. Well, it's clear what the law says. It's clear that you can't just dismiss the initial clause of the Second Amendment. I'm sure I've made those arguments. But when you really step back and take a look at how we really actually operate, it's about who has the power in any given moment, who has the advantage, who's got the votes, who's got the charisma, who's got the influence. Yeah, we're not so much a nation of laws. We're a nation of PR, a nation of money and power. And the law bends to those greater forces. So, I guess when you come right down to it, I'm with River Dave. Let him be. He's 81. Let him live out his life in his little cabin. He's not hurting anybody. Well, if you let him do it, then anybody will do it. No. How many people could live that life? If you can find a spot and you're actually willing to do the work and live off the grid and be self-sustaining, good luck. More power to you. I can't imagine it would be more than a handful of people who would even attempt this, let alone succeed for 27 years. All right. Well, let's leave it at that. With all our best wishes going out to River Dave of New Hampshire. Reminder again, this is our last show for a while, about a week and a half. We'll be back. In the meantime, please check out the website, charlespurcell.com. Find all the archived episodes. And while you're there, check out the other titles. We've done lots of different podcasts over the years. And some of it's radio theater and kind of radio art stuff. It's a lot of fun. So check out the website. Let me thank our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. And thanks to Peter Donalds, who composed and performed our theme song. All right, we good? Good. Okay, so continue to plug in on social media. I'll touch base with you occasionally. And I'll talk to you again with new shows in about a week and a half. All right, take care. I love you. I'm Charles Purcell.